Hi everyone. This is a very weird test type thing to see if this will work. I'm currently self-isolating, which is why we couldn't do this in person. I have my dog on my lap, so if you see me awkwardly shifting about, that's why. He is desperate for attention now that I'm home. So my plan for doing this is that I record a video for each set of chapters that we're going to read. So, beginning with chapters 5, 6, and 7, because hopefully, after the first book club, you read the first four chapters. No worries if not, plenty of time to catch up over Christmas. I just want to get as much of this book done. I want to finish reading the book with you all before I leave in February, because you all have so many fantastic ideas, and I just really want to know what you think of the whole book before I go, because I'm very selfish like that, so I'm going to make you do lots and lots of reading. So what I'd like you to do is read chapters 5, 6 and 7 and then come back to this video and play it, unless you want to know the context first. Depends how you prefer to do it, really. And then afterwards I'll tell you the next set of chapters to read, and I'll hopefully make a video for that. I feel like a YouTuber, like proper gamer girl headset and stuff, but probably it's not going to be a very high quality video. I just hope that it gets the job done until we can meet in person again. If it works really well and you can chat in the comments or something, then maybe this will be brilliant as a thing to do when I go away in February, so you can still have some learning to do. Okay, so with that being said, please go ahead, read these chapters if you haven't already, and then come back to the video and I'll give you some context. Alright, I'll give you some transition time. This is my dog, by the way. He's very handsome. He's also falling off the chair a little bit. Okay, so in these chapters we learn a lot more about Gilead, because we're following Offred and Offglen on their shopping trip through Gilead. Here we go. I've even got a slideshow PowerPoint to work. I couldn't make it work on BBB, so thus the YouTube. And you might have noticed that none of the shops in Gilead have written signs on them anymore. And this is part of the Gilead plan to have women read basically nothing and have the working class not read anything. Because reading is power. It's talked about in 1984, where they introduced Newspeak. Because if people don't have the words to express themselves, they can't think about rebellion. How can people think about freedom if they don't have a word for it? How can you discuss how you're going to rebel if you just don't have the words for it? Yeah, hello. He's very, very excited. Rude boy. Sorry about that. So one of the shop signs that they go into is milk and honey, which is represented by a cow and a bee. And milk and honey is actually quite a biblical phrase. It comes from the phrase, the land of flowing milk and honey. It's used 3 times in the Bible, and if you think about it, it's representative of abundance. This is how the promised land is described to the people in the Bible. It's a place where you don't have to worry about not having enough, about being in poverty. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. And that's quite ironic when you look at the milk and honey store in The Handmaid's Tale, where meat is an absolute luxury. It's so surprising to them that there are oranges. They're like, what a special treat, we have oranges. And if you think about it, it's quite the opposite of a land of abundance, because they have ration cards. They're talking about how only the commanders can afford to have meat, and the meat that they do have is all scrawny and not very nice. So it's another idea of, like, Gilead being named after the promised land, when in reality it is this horrible dystopia that's criticizing the people in control, and the people in control are using this to lie, because if you think of where you're living as, but it's this beautiful utopia place, they're trying to make you not hate it as much. And to make you feel grateful, they keep saying this is a wartime, you should feel grateful for having oranges, you should feel really lucky to be able to have this food, when for us that's just normal and what you can get at the supermarket anyway. This isn't a luxury. Yeah, hi. It's also the name of Rupi Kaur's first poetry book, which, if you remember, I showed you a couple of poems from. I really recommend it. If you follow her on Instagram, she's known as an Insta poet because she posts really small, bite-sized poetry about feminism, and she uses milk and honey to describe female sexuality and arousal and the control of your own body, because if you think about it, milk and honey is associated with fertility and with motherhood. You have breast milk, it's the honey that comes from the bees. I don't know much about beekeeping, but I believe that the honey is used for looking after the young, and it's also the nectar of gods. So you have all of that, and just think so much of this symbolism has come just from the title of a shop. There is so much in The Handmaid's Tale that once you get into it, it is just so detailed and so laced with context. Right. We're also introduced to the wall and the men's salvaging in these chapters. So the wall is where all the public executions happen, and the men's salvaging is in the football stadium. They say they still have football matches there, but the men's salvaging is sort of a mass public execution, just like in the old times where your entertainment was to go and watch the hanging or go and watch the public execution. We've returned to that time. And salvaging, again, it's quite excuse you, it's quite ironic saying that they're being saved when they are literally being killed. Public execution, it's used a lot in 1984. They have the dissenters on TV and they sort of make a spectacle out of it, because the whole thing, and it's what Atwood talks about, it's what Offred writes, it's to keep them scared, it's to keep them terrified. She describes one of their faces as being like a scarecrow under the bag, and that's because you're less likely to rebel if every day you have to walk past a wall full of dead bodies and you have to think, this could be me if I rebel, if I write something. And these ideas were heavily taken from Stalin's Great Terror. I know that in 1984, Stalin's Great Terror, or the Great Purge, was a massive influence on Orwell, where Stalin was very public in his executions. Anyone that was dissenting from the party, anyone who had contradictory thoughts, it was made massively public, and they were just killed for everyone to know about. And why would you betray Stalin if you knew that doing so would lead to you dying and nothing would be done about it? It's the constant fear. They're living in constant surveillance, constant fear. You have no privacy. If you do anything wrong, it could be you on the wall. For these handmaids, they don't have to worry, but they have to worry about their loved ones. For them, they'll have some sort of torture. So you're living in this perpetual fear, and that's how they keep the population under control. Further links to the Salem witch trials, where they hung witches, and you can think about witch hunts and the idea that those women that were killed in the Salem witch trials, obviously, you know, my personal belief, witchery isn't real. They weren't really making deals with the devil to destroy all of the crops in Salem, and so you'll see it a lot. There is a lot of blame put onto the women, that it was the women's fault for being promiscuous, that now everyone is infertile. They're blaming the women. I think it's far more likely in this story that the cause of the infertility was from the radiation and the environmental changes, but still they blame the women who didn't follow God. It's just like how they were blaming intelligent women in Salem. You know, if you do maths, you know, a woman that can do maths, she's a witch, burn her. It's quite a similar link, and as we discussed last time, Atwood took a lot of influence from the Salem witch trials, dedicating the book to one of the women who was persecuted during those trials. Are you okay? Do you want to sit up? Sorry, it's just like having a child, except he's like 9 years old and he cannot do anything for himself. Okay, right. It's also abortion. One of the major context influences for Atwood was abortion. She wrote The Handmaid's Tale after the abortion clinic bombings and shootings, and recently in the news it's become a massive thing again, with a lot of states repealing abortion bills, making it illegal to have abortions again. And that's actually what the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale deals with in a lot more detail, the testaments. And we've seen the pictures of women dressed up as handmaids going to political debates and discussions about freedom of choice, pro-choice. It's one of the huge themes in The Handmaid's Tale. And you see the doctors that have been killed for performing abortions despite it being legal at the time, and just the people that even today think that abortion is murder and therefore we should be murdering the doctors who perform the abortions. So that's another major bit of context there. So I'm going to end this video here and let you read chapters 7, 8 and 9. For this one, I'd say you could also read 10 to 14 at the same time. Which I want to check my book to see what chapter I'd marked. Excuse you. I'd marked as ending. So you can either read chapters 7, 8 and 9 and we'll do a quick check-in, or you can read all the way up to chapter 17, which is after the ceremony is finished, and then you will be over a third of the way through the book. So that's a pretty good chunk. It didn't take me that long. I read it all this morning, but obviously focus on your Christmas instead of reading something incredibly depressing. I'll try and get these videos done, as well as a video on Maya Angelou and Sylvia Plath, so that you can be lovely and literatured up. So happy reading from me and my dog, and I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully this works. Right, thank you, bye.